after we learned earlier this week that he is officially ready for a new home. And the Bucks are listening to all serious trade offers. Giannis is currently sidelined with that calf strain, and the Bucks are just in a free fall. They've lost 7 out of their last 8 games. Monica and Wendy are back with us. Feels like Giannis will be on the move. Will it be before the trade deadline? We can discuss. But who do you think is the best star to pair Giannis Antetokounmpo with?
Okay, so I'm not going to lie, you guys. This wasn't even in my thought process until this week's reporting, courtesy of Shams. If Minnesota is at the table for this, Anthony Edwards, Giannis Antetokounmpo, to me, is a nightmare on both sides of the basketball. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the deal would potentially look like, but if you can keep some of the three-point shooting that Minnesota has, Anthony Edwards is a terrific three-point shooter in his own right. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a force on both sides of the basketball. Like, I don't know where Gobert falls in this in terms of the spacing of it all, but as that one has kind of emerged this week, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, that, to me, makes the West look as appealing as it could be. That's the best option if he were going to go to the Western Conference.
S.A.?
I get where you're coming from, Eminem. I don't mind that. I'm thinking Golden State because of the greatest shooter God has ever created, Steph Curry, and how that brother moves without the basketball, his marksmanship, how you have to pay so much attention to him, how that would free things up for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm also looking at Jimmy Butler being down, how his contract would have to be included in any deal. And then I'm looking at Golden State's draft assets. You got first-round picks. They own their own first-round picks for the next 7 years. And they can trade a maximum of 4, obviously, but they own their first-round picks for the next 7 years. So they've got some assets, all right? You've got the Jimmy Butler salary. You've got Kuminga, who doesn't want to be anywhere near Steve Kerr, and vice versa from everything that we've been hearing as well. I think about that because I'm thinking about the greatest shooter God has ever created,
okay, but S.A.,
who happens to be a 4-time champion.
No, you're right. But the one thing, like, I'm not saying who can make the best deal, because I think that's a different conversation. Right. But you're not concerned that, you know, Steph Curry, as great as he has been, how much longer you got? Like, you got so much more runway in theory with Ant.
I agree with that with Ant-Man. I'm thinking about the other assets you'd have to give up if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves in order to make a deal happen. Okay. So I'm taking that into consideration, Eminem. And then I'm also thinking about Steph Curry because don't we want him to be around? Don't we want him to be around more? Don't we want to see him? I mean, if you're telling us Steph Curry, because remember, his success isn't predicated on athleticism and playing above the rim. His success is predicated on his marksmanship, which we know is the elite of the elite. Yeah. So I'm looking at him being around for at least another 3 years if you got the right partner with him. And Giannis would be that too.
3?
All right, let's just look at the table. The table has 4 teams on it right now, Shay, okay? So, I mean, there might be a mystery team out there. Right now, you got Knicks, Heat, Warriors, and Wolves. Those are the teams that we know are very interested. So let's look at who you're pairing with. Jalen Brunson in New York. Jalen Brunson would be an incredible pairing with Giannis because at the end of games, you need someone who can handle the ball on the perimeter and take those shots. Jalen Brunson, one of the best clutch players in the league. He would be absolutely tremendous alongside Giannis, no doubt about it. And pretty much, let's be honest, the only player on the Knicks who's untouchable in a real discussion, the Knicks probably aren't having real discussions yet, but if they were going to have an honest discussion, he would be the guy. Look at Miami, it would be Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo can defend 1 through 5 on one end. He can bring the ball up the court. He would be a good balance. He's been playing more on the perimeter. He would be a good balance with Giannis, but they wouldn't have the guard play, especially from what they'd have to trade. However, I do think Miami is compelling because Miami and New York are in the Eastern Conference. And I think if you're Giannis, and I'm not even going to get into the tax ramifications, but Giannis will, because Giannis cares about every dollar, trust me. But the tax ramifications would be interesting in Miami, but Bam would be the guy there. Then you look in the West. You have Ant Edwards. This is the total package, guys. He plays both ends of the court. If you look at what led to a championship before with Giannis, he had Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday was one of the best perimeter defenders in the league at that time in 2021. Ant Edwards can be one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, and then he's the guy at the end of the game to balance out Giannis with the ball. That is a dynamic pairing. Unfortunately, of these 4 teams, I think Minnesota has the weakest offer. Because what's the most important thing in this deal, I cannot emphasize enough the tanking that you are about to witness in this NBA draft, okay? And you are going to see the Bucks go into a tank mode like you can't believe. We'll never have seen a team go into a tank mode like the Bucks are about to go into when they don't control their own pick because they've got to swap it with New Orleans. But you're going to watch a tank mode. The offer from Minnesota would bring in players that would not help a tank. Then you look at Golden State. If there's a deal that's going to be made before the deadline, in my belief, Golden State is the team to make that deal because the other teams have to get third and fourth teams involved. And that's why Golden State is going to be probably the most aggressive between now and Thursday. Their best position is doing the deal before next Thursday.
Well, here's the deal. Let's point this out. And here's the interesting part, and I can't wait to throw this at both of y'all. Let's shift this discussion just slightly as it pertains to who needs to be most desperate. You Golden State. You understand, with that money that Joe Lacob has spent over the years, with Steph Curry in the twilight of his career, still giving you 27 a night, still playing like a superstar, you got to take care of that brother. You got to put that brother in a position to compete. You got to help him. You understand? So that could be a compelling thing that drives them to do everything they can. And I know Joe Lacob is going to do whatever he can do, right? But then let's get to Minnesota. You know, with their new ownership, with A-Rod and the crew. And Mark, here's the point. Ant-Man is there. You don't want to get to a point where Ant-Man is frustrated. He's my favorite player to watch. Him and Steph Curry are my two favorite players to watch in the national in the world. You don't want to get Ant-Man perturbed. You don't want him sitting on the bench like he was against OKC, looking like he ain't got a snowball's chance in hell, and he's frustrated about it. You know, we were in Oklahoma City for Game 6 last year, okay, when they went up against Minnesota and blew them out of the building. We were there, Wendy, and did you see
Game 5? They wish they could have got to Game 6.
Game 5.
That's right.
They only made it to 5.
But did you see how he walked out there? I'm there in the tunnel, you know, and I know Alex Rodriguez, okay? He's a friend. And I'm telling you, I stayed the hell away from him. He was ticked because they got destroyed. And you just know you're not good enough. But you got one of the greatest players in the world, who, by the way, is one of the greatest box office appeals in the world. You may want to make sure you do everything you can to get him the help that he needs before he turns his attention on you and what you're not doing.
I know we got to go to break, but I would throw back at you, Stephen A. I feel like, to your question of urgency, there is another piece on the board I think that the Wolves could add to keep moving them forward. It feels like, for me, an observation of Golden State, it might be Giannis, big splash, big guy that can run alongside Steph or bust. But I think there's other moves for the Wolves to make to keep moving forward if they can't get Giannis.
Okay.
Wolves.
Yeah, the Timberwolves, right? If it's not Giannis, maybe they add other pieces to make.
Well, guys, let's go here. Fact or fiction? I'm going to say a fact. You tell me whether you believe it is the real deal or it is fiction. We'll start with this one. Vince, is this going to be LeBron's last season in L.A.?
Fact. This is it. Like, the Lakers are not going to pay him the money that he wants. The Lakers need to probably move on from where LeBron is. With Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, this is the perfect time for a breakup. And maybe, just maybe, for LeBron to go to Cleveland or New York City.
Oh, look at that.
Your thoughts on that one there?
I do think that the sun is setting in Hollywood. Okay. So we'll see what happens next.
All right, Monica, we've seen a lot of reports. Jason Tatum will indeed return before the playoffs. Fact or fiction?
I got fiction on this one, and despite the open workout for the media up in Boston, I've never really been confident on this one. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I mean, Jason Tatum is still in the prime of his career. He's got a lot of runway left. The Celtics are in a very competitive position this season. I don't know that you come back after this type of injury and jump in 0-85 if you're toward the late season heading toward the playoffs.
All right, Vince, this is the one that everyone's talking about. Giannis to Golden State is Steph Curry's best last chance for an NBA title. Another one.
Yeah, it is, but maybe his best last chance was in 2022 when they actually won the NBA title. They have squandered a lot of chances to keep this thing alive. The question we are not asking ourselves is Stephen Curry Giannis's best chance to win an NBA title? And that answer is a big no.
No. Okay. Let's talk about Giannis a little bit. Monica, we talk about the trade deadline coming up, and Giannis comes out, and Shams has that report that he wants out of Milwaukee. Everyone's throwing teams out of here. The Warriors, though, is really, really interesting because of what they've had in the past, and now can they get one last one with Steph? What are your thoughts?
The Warriors is interesting, but of the teams that have emerged, the Wolves are the one that I find to be most terrifying, potentially. The Warriors, obviously, it's going to cost. Steph is one of one. He's a Hall of Famer. The accolade list is longer than a CVS receipt. But in terms of Giannis,
Just say it, Monica.
we are heading toward the end of an era. I need to learn how to say the end in French. I don't know. Fini, there we go.
He's old. He's about to be 38 years old. The last time we saw Steph in the playoffs, he was running off with the hamstring because he spent too much time carrying that team, and he could not do it any longer. Asking him as a year older to be healthier doesn't make. That's like asking my hairline to come back down as I'm aging.
Self-deprecation is a technique.
Let's get to the team here, though. The Knicks. Everyone's talking about the Knicks and Giannis. You cover this team on a daily basis. You're around them. Distraction to have Giannis being swirling around that Knicks team, or is this a reality and a possibility you think could happen?
I think it is the latter two, not the first. I mean, yes, the human experience is something that I pride myself on being mindful of, even as we're talking about these extraordinary athletes. But what I will say about New York is you don't come to that city without the expectation that the lights are going to be bright and the pressure is always on. So whether it's 2 weeks out from the trade deadline and a big guy like Giannis looming, there's always noise that has to be quieted in New York. And so I think those guys can be a professional. Now, the reality of it is, Giannis is a great potential addition, and you got to see how it plays out.
And they know math.
Yeah.
They know if Giannis is coming here, I make a lot of money, I might be on the way out. And it's very easy for us to play this game of cap and everything else and say, oh, add Giannis, win a championship. But it's very difficult in the middle of the season with Jalen Brunson being such a primary ball handler to drop a player like that in there and say they're going to get to the finals. You got to be very delicate with these situations.
I do think that this group deserves an opportunity to try to go get it done.
They got a new coach, right? That was what was supposed to get them over the top. Do you also need Giannis? We'll see. Trade deadline's coming up. Joe, what are your thoughts?
Best way to bet something like this is to look at the Warrior regular season win total. So it's 43.5, right? Now, for them to go over that number, you'd have to go 17-16 the rest of the way. Something they could do without Giannis, but this is going to be the most aggressive team going after Giannis. Joe Lacob knows better than anyone else that when Steph Curry's gone, things are going to go bye-bye in Golden State in a hurry. They've got the draft picks. They've got the contracts that match. If you're Milwaukee, you got to remember, coming away from trading a guy like this, you have to show the fan base something. Golden State can deliver that.
Shams with that little sprinkle of Timberwolves got me thinking, whoa.
I'm with you,
That would
Schrager.
look so
I think listen, I understand all the reporting that Giannis wants this to be as amicable a split as possible, but I do think he has earned the right to say where he potentially wants to be. And the West, to me, is going to continue to be a gauntlet for years to come.
Here's three teams, the three teams to watch. I'm not asking, I'm telling.
Okay.
The New York Knicks, the Miami Heat, the Minnesota Timberwolves. It would be better for him to stay east.
The Heat? We got to talk about that.
The Heat.
The Heat. Three teams. That's the list.
I don't know if he'd be interested in living in Miami.
That's it.
You know, Miami stinks.
We got